My name is Herb, and I'm from Miami, Florida. I was 19 when I got my first tattoo. I knew I wanted some eventually on my body. I wanted things that meant something to me, things that were kind of engraved that like stood the test of time. Okay, it's on my back up here, and it says, "This isn't happening," and it's in my handwriting. And that tattoo for me, because at that time, 17, 18, 19, like a lot of stuff was going on in my life, a lot of big changes, a lot of family issues, things like that. And so that was kind of my own reminder that like at any point, all I gotta do is touch that and remind myself like whatever's going on right now, this isn't everything, this isn't forever, this isn't like whatever I'm dealing with right now, this is just temporary. I don't know that it's necessarily my favorite tattoo, but I'm glad that one was my first. In many respects, all my tattoos represent my passions, and music is definitely one of those. So on my neck here, I have a little coin slot. It relates to an old song I used to like. The song is called Jukebox Breakdown. It's by this band called Saves the Day. The song is basically about a guy that is trying to please his mate by just, like, hey, if you stick a quarter in my neck, I'll sing whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like, whatever I can do for you. Like I'll get anything you need. Like that sort of, endless devotion. I've always felt I feel like I can heal people when I try. I put forth the effort to try to reach people when their mind is elsewhere, when they've got shit on their mind, when they're down, friends or family, whatever. So the point is, I've always enjoyed being in a position where I could please somebody, kind of being on call, like, hey, give me a quarter and I'll sing you something, like it's just, I don't know, it just embodies that. So my second tattoo was this, and then at the same time I also got this one, which has been mistaken many times for sort of telling people that I'm HIV positive, which I'm not. For me, this one's on my left side, and it's almost like, it's not so much a plus sign as it is almost like a hospital cross, like sort of like a hey, I'm here to help. You know what I mean? Like that's always been a thing for me. After that one was this one. This represents, of course, my passion for video games, and for that matter, games. And I've always seen games as a sort of misunderstood medium. It's one of those things that people kind of take as just for fun or just like a toy. But I think is definitely more telling of the human condition than I think people want to admit. Like it's not just a thing that people make, that they sell, that people do to have fun. It's a whole nother universe in a product. It's a thing people escape into, it's a thing people connect over. And for me, my biggest connection to video games, or my earliest connection to video games, was this. It's the cheat code for the very first Sonic game. And that was like, I'm old enough to remember Contra and the Konami code, and everybody knows that, but this was the first cheat code. I was like 4 or 5 years old, and I remember learning it. And when you're 4 or 5 years old, it's like, wow, I've not only conquered this thing that I really love, but now I can break this thing that I love, and maybe I'm getting too far into it, but for me that was very significant. To be honest, this is the funniest thing about it. Everybody looks at it and thinks it's the Konami code, and I'm not gonna talk about who's real gamer or not. The only person to ever get it right was the tattoo artist, which blows my mind to this day. He was like, is that the code for Sonic 1? I'm like, yeah! And he was like, cool, we're doing it. This was a gift from my little brother. We got tattoos together. We got different tattoos, but they were both Roman numerals, and both were numbers that meant a lot to us. This is my favorite number. It is LVI, which is 56. It's just one of those things where I think we all have things we like that are recurring in our lives that we see or we hear. I've always heard and seen the number 56 everywhere. It's on receipts, it's on clocks, it's on license plates. I just see it, and maybe it's one of those things where it's like I see it because I want to see it, or I see it because I'm noticing it. But I mean, at least every 6 months or every year at least, the number 56 will be significant in some way in my life. It always has been, So I think tattoos can definitely be something significant, and they don't necessarily have to be this gigantic multicolored thing that takes over half your body. It can be whatever you want it to be. It's your body. That's how I look at tattoos. It's whatever you want. It's your symbol. It doesn't have to impress anybody, it just has to mean something to you. This one on my leg, which is the MARTA transit system for Atlanta, but I think there are a lot of places in the world that need more help than others. America, you know, needs help in a lot of ways, but we also have a lot of our shit together. But within America, I think there are some cities that are kind of like, they're doing fine. They're good. They've got transit, they've got, you know, public services down, you know, this and that, whatever. One of the reasons why I moved to Atlanta, other than opportunity, was that, I mean, this city needs help. And by help, I mean like, it's still kind of figuring out who it is. A big part of that, and any major city, is the transit system and how people get around. I was using the MARTA every single day. I mean, it was to work, to the store, everything was MARTA. And MARTA gets a lot of flack, but I just feel like it's one of those things that it's like, it needs support. And so I thought of, how am I gonna represent Atlanta, Georgia on my body? And I was like, I'm gonna do the transit system. I use it every day. It's a cool design, it's simple colors. So I put that on my leg, and eventually the vision with that is to get all of the transit lines from all the places I've lived and make like a leg sleeve and connect them all together like a big map. I got this one on my back, which is probably definitely the most painful tattoo I've ever had. The shading's real dark. It has a ton of ink on it. It's probably gonna be blurry as fuck when I get older, but it is basically an image that anybody in Cleveland, Ohio would know. It's a very common scene. If you spend any time in Cleveland, Ohio, anybody that lives there knows. You pass by this, you know, by this old book factory. On the top of the building, it says "Read More Books" in very like spread out letters, and everything's kind of like decayed, and you can tell the building has been like abandoned for a long time. Got a bunch of graffiti on it, but there was all this time when I was younger, and I'm sure a lot of us when we were younger, where, you know, books, that was it. Like yeah, we had video games, we had TV, but like many, you know, years I can think of many instances where we had nothing to do in the house but read. And to me, it's not only a symbol of my time in Cleveland, which was very pivotal for me. Books and reading are one of those things that you might think will never go out of style, but their consumption and, you know, the perspective of books and authors and writing and all that has changed a lot since the internet has come around. If you take a look at the image, it's like kind of a big part about Cleveland that really stands out is the fact that there is so much decay and so much, like, everything is weathered there. Everything has been through very harsh winters, a lot of economic fallout. Cleveland has like a very kind of rough history of being very successful and then kind of getting knocked down once a lot of very wealthy people moved out of it and decided to like make Chicago what it is. And there's all these stories about it, and everybody in Cleveland talks about how Cleveland was almost Chicago. It's like a whole thing. It's a whole like subculture there. So I wanted to get something on my body that represented kind of like old ideas and like a decaying past on me. It just, I don't know, it just felt like the whole vibe of Cleveland was like, you know, we're still here, we're still holding on, you know, we still have a lot of pride in our city, but, you know, there's all these kind of like remnants and, how do I put it, all these things that are left, almost like a big graveyard. And that book factory is one of them, because I mean, like, when's the last time you saw a book factory, you know? So reading more books is not only something that kind of like keeps things in check for me, like, hey, when in doubt, when you're tired of looking at screens all day like we all do all day now, you know, open up a book, read. I don't think reading is ever gonna go out of style, obviously, you know, but I think it's changed a lot. And sort of keeping that on me, it gives me this not only connection to Cleveland, Ohio, but a connection to, like, you know, the majority of my entertainment as a child was reading. This one, which is it's a MIDI controller. It's an Axiom 25. It's an M Audio. I'm not, you know, by any means a seasoned beat maker, or for that matter, a seasoned musician, but music has always been a big part of my life. You know, I'm not where I want to be with my music yet, but this constantly reminds me, because I have to see it every day, hey, you have a passion for this thing. And when you get into the groove, you're good at it. And when you really put your heart and your soul into it, it goes somewhere. And so this constantly reminds me, like, don't forget that. Keep doing it. Keep going. A lot of people do not know what it is when they look at it. which is something I get a little thrill out of. I think it's cool because it is something that's just for me. But if you're an old school gamer, if you're a 90s gamer, if you're a Sega fan, it is also the character Sparkster. He's an anthropomorphic opossum who is given like a suit of armor, and the game that he's from is called Rocket Knight Adventures, and it's all about him basically saving the kingdom from a bunch of pigs, literal pigs. Like all the bad guys in the games are pigs and wolves, and all the good people are like rodents and critters and things like that. And Sparkster always spoke to me. His character is very courageous. His character doesn't give a fuck. He's gonna go out there and do what he needs to do. He's gonna save the kingdom. He's gonna hold it down. And it's also notoriously a very difficult game. For me, it represents sort of like my passion for justice, protecting people that either cannot protect themselves or don't have the means, don't have the vision to see how they're being controlled or hurt. Everybody's a social justice warrior these days. I don't think I hold a place that's necessarily any more important than somebody else's. But for me, this tattoo keeps it fresh in my mind that, like, even just as, some guy in American society, some civilian, I can do things that are for the greater good too. I can hold down justice. I can do what I need to do to make sure I'm happy with the person that I am, to make sure I'm happy with the country that I live in and the things that I'm fighting for and the things that I believe. Like, this is sort of like almost like a tattoo that represents solidarity. If I could sum up the whole tattoo experience for me, it's like back in the day, my grandma used to have a big old suitcase, like the kind with no wheels, big rectangle that, you hold and you open up, and it's got like your shoes and everything in it. It was covered in all these old stickers from various customs in different places. She like traveled the world. She went to Morocco, she went to Spain, she went to parts of Asia, and it had all these stickers. It was almost like following a trail around this suitcase. And I just remember thinking when I first got my very first tattoo, like, these are like little like breadcrumbs. Like, these are like things trails of my life, like trails of my thought processes and things I was into, passions I have had. And just because it's at this one point in my life doesn't mean I can't put it on myself and still draw feelings and perspective and serenity in a lot of ways from these images and from these symbols that I put on myself. It's fun to talk about them, and it's fun to go back through that emotional journey of like what they mean to you. This one's in English, and the Read More Books is in English, but all of them represent things that are almost sort of like this sort of language on you that is your own language. It's not, this one's in English like kanji or like hieroglyphics, where it's not so much, this word means this and this word means that. It's like the whole symbol means an entire vision, an entire perspective. People can do tattoos however they want to do them, but to me, I'm satisfied with my tattoo when I think about it for long enough and I realize that this thing that I want to get out of this design, this feeling, this perspective, that's not only going to mean something to me now at a pivotal point in my life, but that's a part of me and going to be a part of me forever. All the things that I mentioned with my tattoos, the feelings behind them, those are things that I've always felt. And so to me, it just makes sense to have them on me at this point.